Welcome to the Courtship Aftershow, a talk show on the Reader Seeks Romance channel that recaps and discusses former NBC, current USA Network dating reality show The Courtship, inspired by the work of Jane Austen. I am Liz Donatelli, and my co-host is my good friend and reality TV superfan, Tiffany Current. Tiffany and I are joined today by Regency romance author JANNA MAC GREGOR. JANNA's romance story is included in Big Duke Energy Seasons of Sin anthology. First off, what is the title of the story that you have contributed to Big Duke Energy? Could you tell us a little bit about it?
The name of my story is Put Up Your Dukes, and it is about an estranged couple who are trying to find their way back to each other. And what's crazy about them is that they get together every Wednesday to discuss their lives and to, have a little whoopee time.
Ooh, that's exciting. I'm already involved. Let's learn more.
The husband's name is Martin Richmond, and he is the owner editor of the most popular gossip rag. It's called The Midnight Crier. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of show and tell. The Midnight Crier first appeared in my very first book, debut book, The Bad Luck Bride.
Nice.
And this is the first in the Cavish Maris series. And the Midnight Crier has been a character in every one of the books. But Martin Richmond isn't introduced until the fourth book, The Good, the Bad, and the Duke. And that's and he was truly the villain in this. So this is like a redemption of a villain story. And his wife, Amelia, is a very sweet woman who loves him, but she just can't stand what he does for a living. And so these two have to find their way with their different morals and values, etc.
I love redemption stories. I love it when there's a villain and who you get to root for, because usually the villains are always the hot ones. I don't know what that says about society, but that's always the case. But I always want to see a good love story with a villain. So that's exciting.
I noticed, JANNA, on your website, your tagline is Regency Romance with a Plum. And I wanted to know what was the inspiration behind that particular tagline. Very classy, JANNA.
Oh, thank you. I wish I could take credit for that, but that was a quote from Entertainment Weekly's Maureen Linker about my series. And so I actually have that all printed and put it up on my wall. And my publicist said, you ought to use that as your tagline. And I go, oh, that's brilliant. I will.
I love it.
Is there an upcoming release that you would like to tease, share with us? Do tell.
Okay, I would love to. Behind you is a Duke in Time, and that's the first in my new series, Widow Rules.
Yes.
And that came out last June, and it's about three women who walk into a solicitor's office and discover that they're married to the same man. So the 3-book series is how they...
Oh, each woman. Oh, that's cute. I love that. Yeah. That's cute.
Yeah, and on April 26th, the second in the series, Rules for Engaging the Earl, comes out. And this is about the second wife, who actually is the legitimate wife, who is 9 months pregnant. And it's her story. Yeah,
interesting.
She was pregnant with the trigamous. So.
That's I like that term. Did you create that term? Is that an actual... It sounds fake. I don't know. So I'm just trying to find out, is that a real term?
It does. I was thinking the same exact thing, Tiffany, is trigamous. Is that a real thing?
It sounds very sexy.
It is a real word. Yeah. And it's funny because whenever whenever you're writing a Regency romance, you have to be careful of the words that you use to make certain that they were around back in that time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a word, and it was around back then.
That indicates that there were a lot of men that were doing that. If that word was created, someone's like, I'm going to name what that is, because that's happened 6 times in our town. That's right.
Well,
that's fascinating.
And it did happen all the time because they didn't have a common registry. The only place where marriages were really recorded.
But they have common decency. But they have common decency.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
They're supposed to.
There's no common registry, but they should have common decency. But that's amazing. I love it.
Those were kind of
fun fact.
Those were some swinging times, because you could just get tired of your wife and just say, I'm just going to move one town over and just marry someone else. And
she'll never know. She'll never know.
Yeah.
I love it.
Now, JANNA, the level of research that you invest in each novel, I am hoping will help us today with the questions that we have about the courtship. Are you up for the challenge?
I think so. I'll try my best. Let's put it that way.
So today we are discussing episode 4, entitled Two New Suitors. And those two new suitors are Dr. Tim Hatem and Mr. Jesse Judge. What are your first impressions?
Well, I mean, I really liked Dr. Hatem. I did. I mean, as soon as he came on the screen, I mean, he just, your eyes just immediately went to him. I mean, he's so confident, and the idea that he can be doing all these gymnastic moves trying to impress her. Yeah, I really loved it. And when he, flexed his arms to show how
amazing he was.
Yes. I was like, oh my God. But then, as you kind of get into it, I still like him. I still really, really like him. And Mr. Judge, I mean, I think at the beginning, I wasn't too certain of him, but when he had that moment with Nicole during the fencing, I kind of fell in love with him. I'm sorry, I did.
Really?
Wow, those are big words.
Yeah.
That's a big.
Okay, well, Tiffany, so what were your impressions of these two new suitors?
I have to say, I was a little disappointed to get two suitors because I was just getting to know those other guys and I wanted to get to know those other people better. So I was like, new people. The wrestler, Mr. Judge, I was like, I'm not feeling him from the moment but Miss Remy was like, I feel like I've known you. She was very into him a little too quickly, in my opinion. But Dr. Hatem, I'm never going to get that right.
Dr. Tim. When they were calling him Dr. Tim later on, I said, are they making fun because his name is Hatem? But then I realized his name is actually Tim Hatem.
Oh, well, that's a question for his parents. But in general, though, I was like, I liked him. Here's the thing. He almost seems too good to be true. He's like a character that you would see in a Regency novel. He's a doctor and he's probably rich and he's worldly and he's athletic and he can do fencing and he can do flips. And I was like, I don't know if I believe this guy. I don't know if he's a little too good to be true. I think I prefer some of the other gentlemen over the two new suitors. What about you, Liz? Did you like them?
Here's my thoughts. One, my mind and heart is closed off to the two of them because I am so invested in the other suitors because I've gotten to know them. Dr. Hatem, Jesse Judge. I feel
the
wrestling dude. I feel like they're gimmicks. I don't think that they're really in it to win it. Well, maybe they are in it to win it, but not love. Like
they're not in it for love. Yeah.
They're not in it for love. They don't seem sincere. I think that they're just paid actors. That's what I think. And so I'm not really on either. Although I have to say, Dr. Hatem, when he took off his ascot and his linen shirt,
he has a great body.
I was impressed by what was underneath. It was pretty impressive. Now, interesting because we see covers of romance novels, particularly historical and Regency, and and even the descriptions of the guys got all these muscles. Now, realistically, Janna, would six packs really exist in the Regency era? Like, were they doing parkour, to build up those muscles?
That's true.
Like, what do you think? Is that
That's a good
accurate?
question.
No, I think it is accurate, and I'll tell you why. First off, they rode horses all the time because that was the major mode of transportation for them. They walked all the time. And let's say it's somebody that's landed gentry or an aristocrat or something like that. The fencing and the boxing, they would do that, not only as social interactions with their peers, etc., but also for exercise. So yeah, I believe it. Was everybody like that? No, because there are a lot of these guys would eat to excess and drink to excess. And, all you have to do is look at the Prince Regent and
yes. Mr. Shanklin said, Dr. Tim in the Big Oaf Judge. Do you remember that at the beginning?
I don't remember that
Shanklin
line.
was giving shade right away, and Shanklin and and then Captain Kim and Mr. Casanova were getting cozy because now they're brought together in common enemies.
They have a common enemy. Yeah.
But I didn't like that Dr. Hatem asked Mr. Bukikio, he's like, well, give us the lowdown. Who's winning? I mean, right there, it's like, that's tacky.
I know, it's weird. It's tacky. It's tacky.
It's very tacky.
It was tacky, but what I like. Oh, go
But
ahead.
I've got a different take on it. See, I actually think that's kind of like what gentlemen do, that they kind of bond with each other, and they're trying to not only impress Miss Remy, they're also, I think they, it'd be awful if they were enemies all the time. So
well, that's true. I mean, it kind of did warm my heart a little bit to see them uniting against common enemies. But and even Mr. Shanklin was like, they were just a trio of misery, talking
That's
about
true.
how much they hated, and Mr. Shanklin was like, listen, I have to win her now with my voice, with my song.
I
which
know.
we will
He
talk
has to stop singing.
The big event of this episode is the country fair. So right away, I'm thinking country fair. I have to ask Janna, country fairs with tightrope walkers.
Yes.
Was that a thing, Janna?
That was shocking.
That I don't know, but I would imagine so, because I mean, they would bring in people, they would almost have like a circus-like atmosphere. I just actually wrote a country fair scene, and I included fortune tellers and all sorts of little booths that sold ribbons and knickknacks and stuff like that, along with food and stuff like that. So, and they did happen, but think about it, they would have like
jesters
like the
and stuff
snake,
back in the day.
Yeah, and the snake lady and this, that, and the other thing, those kind of.
Did you include coconuts in your fair? Because for some reason they were like hitting coconuts, and I was like, did they do that back in the day? Are they offended by coconuts? Why were they coconuts? Like, it didn't make any sense to me.
I don't know specifically about coconuts, but I can tell you a lot about oranges. Because oranges were very important, not only to prevent scurvy and to do all sorts of vitamins and stuff, but they were very prevalent in the British Isles during that time. And they would come either from Florida over on the boats or from Portugal, because the South Portugal had a lot of citrus trees. So they would bring those up. But just think about it. Coconut, that's got a long shelf life. Why wouldn't they bring those over? And why wouldn't they do that? And maybe if they knock them off and break them, then they all eat the coconut inside. Who knows? Maybe that's something to do.
That didn't even occur to me, that maybe they were doing that and then eating which would make more sense, because I was thinking that's kind of a waste. Like, coconuts wouldn't have been
they couldn't waste food back then.
Right. So we also have a kissing booth.
But we know that's not real. We know that's not real. That's just for the game.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe Janna's going to surprise us and say they were kissing booths.
I can't tell you whether they're kissing booths, but I can tell you, if you can see that, Winter Evening Pastimes or the Merrymaker's Companion. This was a book that was actually published in 1817, and it talked about parlor games and things like that. And there were a ton of kissing booths. So
really?
I would imagine.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And particularly from the standpoint, think about it. There's only one female that they're trying to hook up here, and that's Miss Remy. So why not have a kissing book? How many books have you read where they have there's two strangers and they share a kiss, and oh my God, they know it's,
it's
they're
fate.
the one for each other. Yeah.
So there was a bit of a scandal involving the kissing booth, that the activity the men had to perform was hit the nail on the head.
Hitting a nail. Yep. That was fascinating.
I was shocked how many people missed that.
Yes!
I couldn't believe it.
Well, they're not handy, clearly, if they're missing hitting that's the whole.
I loved Captain Kibby's like, I'm very accurate, so I have no problem. I have no concerns about me not hitting this nail. And he goes, and it just totally misses it. And he was very annoyed.
He was very annoyed. Mr. Bokikio got it. I was like, good for him. He seems like he'd know how to use a hammer. I was like, good for him.
So Bokikio hit it.
First kiss,
He collected his kiss. He is a sweet kisser, and I can't decide if I like it.
It was short
or
but
not.
sweet. Oh, Liz. Are you shaking your head that you didn't like his kiss? Oh my God.
I did not like his kiss. I don't really like him.
Oh my God.
And I'll tell you why. Because I thought it was so sweet when her parents were at the fair and they were talking to like Mr. Castronova, and then and with him, I mean, I fell in love with him, and it broke my heart at the end, because he was so sweet to her parents.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was it. But Mr. How do you say his name?
Mr. Bokikio.
Bokikio.
Yeah, Bokikio. Yeah. He was, I don't know, a little bit too much of a slick Rick for me, I think.
Oh,
that's interesting. Wow. Sorry, Mr. Bokikio. You are on the not list.
Now,
That's a shame.
Would you say that a slick Rick would be called a rogue back in the Regency era, or was there another word? Okay.
So no, a rogue, a rake, you know, a scoundrel, whatever. Yeah.
Or a slick Rick, you know?
Yeah, or a slick Rick, yeah.
But then it was Mr. Chapman who got, I think, kiss number 2. That was a good kiss.
Right. Oh,
that was a good kiss.
Chapman kisses with all his heart and soul.
That was all. Yeah. Yes, he was like, I'm gonna take my time. Yeah. There's nobody else here. It's just you and me. He took his time with it. She clearly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yes, she did.
Yes, that was. That was interesting.
We spend a lot of time talking about the suitors, and I'd like to just inject a little bit of my opinion or my assessment of Miss Remy's character arc. She is, listen, she is growing increasingly horny. Okay. And I think that all the male attention may be getting to her head a little bit in that she seems to be kind of more flirtatious to the point of playing with hearts. I think she's playing with hearts at this point. And I do love her. I think she's normally a very grounded person, but I think that this episode with the two new suits really threw her.
But it's hard not to. Imagine being the one single woman there. All these guys are going after you, and they're all basically models. Let's be honest. They're all really attractive men going after you. It's hard not to kind of fall into that. Like, why shouldn't I kiss him? And ask for this kiss and that kiss and that kiss. I agree. I think she kind of lost herself this episode because there were so many men, and there was a kissing booth. So she's like, I want to be kissed. Why not?
Yeah, she was.
But I can't fault her for it.
But I thought it was interesting. And this goes to your point, Liz. I mean, I think maybe she did have an emotional overload, because I thought that scene with her and Mr. Combs, when it was truly just a friendship and they were getting in there, I thought that was the most emotional part of the show. I really, really did. I mean, I fell in love with him. Oh, just over that one part. Yeah. It was like a friends to lover. And particularly when they were, when she was pouring out her heart and saying, it's so hard when I was in high school, the white guys wouldn't date me, and it was, I never felt like I was accepted, that I was an outsider. And I was like, oh my God, I feel that for her, and I mean, it was sweet. so sweet. And he said, let's just put that in our pocket and we'll keep it. And, the only part I didn't like about that was when he took off his boots. I was like, no.
I think he was just trying to like lighten the mood and be funny, and it was probably a little too relaxed, but he was, that was actually really nice, because he was very genuine, and he talked about himself, his background. How I think he said he was poor, but he was saying he was proud of how far he's come in life and how he's worked at it. And that was really nice. And how he was there for her when she was expressing her pain. He was like, I understand, and it's unfair. It was really nice. Mr. Combs is a great. I think he's a
he really is. He really is.
He's great.
Because I think she was really showing a lot of emotional vulnerability then, and he got it. And I mean, a lot of those guys I think would have turned it on her, to make a move on her, but he didn't. He just, he was a true friend to her.
I did appreciate that, but I still wanted a kiss, because like we've seen them together and they've danced together and they've shared
stuff. They haven't kissed yet?
They haven't kissed. There's been no kiss. There was no kiss. So that's why I was like, oh, maybe he'll get the kiss finally. And he didn't get the kiss. So that makes me think, is it just a friend situation? I know there's been no kiss.
I think this is a friend situation. I even think that maybe on his end too, it's a friend situation, because he's not pursuing her as hard as the others.
For a kiss,
unless that's his strategy. But I think that he too realizes that, this is just a good, friendship type of situation. Yeah, she was the most relaxed with him, the most authentic and organic. Everything
she was herself.
Yeah. And that was coming off of the uncomfortable conversation between her and Mr. Bokikio, because he's like, listen, episode 1 we kissed. Again, like I said last episode, he thought that he had secured his position in the first episode for some reason. He thought game over. And he's like, you kind of have
Terrible.
to, let me know what's going on. And she didn't really like that he kind of wanted her to
But
make a
it was
decision.
fair because he's watching her, and we haven't
It
talked
is,
about it,
yeah.
Mr. Tim, Dr. Tim,
Yeah.
how he stole a kiss. But he's watching
Yes.
her kiss all these guys and building these personal relationships. And I think he's one of the few men that's probably actually there for her.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to confirm, like, are you still here for me? Or is this
Mhm.
just a game for you? So I think his question was valid, maybe not the way he went about it. But I thought it was a valid question. Just he's saying, I'm putting my heart out there. Should I be doing that? And I think that's a totally fair question.
It was a fair question. He came off a little bit pissed off. And I think
Yes.
that's what she was getting off of him, is that,
He was
valid
jealous.
question, but you also seem like you are annoyed with me and want me to make up my mind already. But you're right. We did skip that someone stole a kiss.
Dr. Tim.
Dr. Tim, he did not hit the nail on the head. He did a backflip, which this guy should be in Cirque du Soleil or something.
He might be.
And he did the backflip and figured, well, listen, I just entertained her. I did something amazing. I deserve a kiss. Went up there. She did not push him away. She accepted the stolen
She
kiss.
asked for it. She said, does he deserve a kiss for that? She specifically
She did
said,
say that.
does he get a kiss for that? And I was like, Miss Remy, that's not how the game is played, but whatever.
Oh, yeah. And
but she wanted the kiss.
Really pissed
Captain
off.
Kim. Yeah.
He was like, this is BS. I mean, he really looked, I wouldn't mess with him. I mean, he knows how to use firearms. I mean, he's in the Army, Air Force.
I thought he was just a pilot. Is he like, he actually, okay.
It's like,
Army.
This guy could probably kill you with his bare hands. Like, I would not mess with him. So there was a lot going on at the country fair.
Yes.
The Remys, Mr. and Mrs. Remy, the parents, reasserted their love for Mr. Casanova.
They are in love with Giuseppe. They love him so much. They need to have it. I hope maybe they have a third daughter. I don't know, because they are really into him. Every single moment we go to them, they're talking about Giuseppe. Whether or not they're like, well, Mr. Bocchicchio, like, what is he talking about? But Giuseppe is perfect for our family. I was like, you guys have to let it go. Like, they're in love with Giuseppe.
Yeah. And that makes me feel good, because I was afraid he was going to get overlooked throughout the series.
He's very sweet.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
But he really, he's very opinionated too, as we know, has a lot to say. I have to point out that the two best lines delivered in this episode came from Mrs. Remy. Okay. At the start of the country fair, she said, I hope they insert themselves quickly. And Mr. Edwards, the narrator, was like, what? Mrs. Remy, what is it that you speak of? What is... And then, everyone laughed, because it's a very sexual thing to talk about insertion.
Very funny.
And then the second thing I will mention later.
Yeah, I know what it is, Mr. Shanklin. I know what it is.
It's her Mr. Shanklin comment at the end during the farewell elimination ball.
My God,
so
yes.
We'll talk about that, but that was a great line. And she said it really innocently. And everyone's like, oh.
What I found fascinating about the fencing, Dr. Tim, he seems like he actually knows how to fence. He had the great stance, and he was very into it. He was really good.
He was. I was hoping for a little bit more action with that segment.
Seeing them fight. Yeah, I thought they were going to fight. I thought they were going to fight for a date with her.
I mean, JANNA is dueling for the honor of a woman. Was that really a big thing in the Regency ever? Why do I feel like it might not have been?
Back then, the concept of honor, a man's honor, was key. I mean, it was their identity. And so particularly, you wouldn't see a man challenge another person to a duel over a woman that wasn't family, or that they weren't, romantically involved with, or something like that. I mean, you just didn't go off and do that. But there's a famous hill outside of London, and I can't remember the name of it, but a lot of duels actually took place there. And of course they were illegal. And so if people were caught, things could get kind of messy for those folks. But they actually did, and there's a whole procedure about going through it. But going back to that fencing scene, I know, because what happened is that they cut away to Miss Remy and what was his
Individual
name,
dates.
Mr. Judge, and
Yeah.
and the other guys are back there in the back, doing fencing. It's like, that's what I want to see.
Yeah, I want to see who's going to win. I want to see somebody take off their shirt and say, like, let's have a real battle.
Let's go. Come on.
They ended up having a lot of individual dates.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Did you have a favorite individual date?
Well, listen, a favorite, I'm going to say that it wasn't the one with Judge. I think he is an actor. I think
You're so brutal. I didn't get her fascination with him. And then he said, and there's something about my past that when I tell you, you'll be really intrigued. I'm like, well, what is it? Don't leave us hanging. Well, what's so intriguing about your past? What happened?
Yeah, you know what it is? Because he has to wait for the producers to write that part for him because he's an actor.
Can't with you. You're terrible. He's like, what's my line? No.
Yes.
He was not, but she did. I thought she had a good conversation with Mr. Chapman, actually.
I want to interject though with Judge.
Because you liked him. Yeah, you liked him.
I liked him, but there was also something that kind of didn't feel right because he, as he's telling her, oh, I come from this small town of 800 in Michigan and, there's not that much there, but I've got a good heart. And then he goes, he really wants to be a good father, a good husband, a good caregiver. I mean,
I would
who
even
says
hear that.
father first if you're trying to be a true romantic.
That's interesting.
With him.
Your dog agreed. He's like, yep, that was phony.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't remember. Maybe he's already a father. Maybe that's why he mentioned father first. Because I thought that was
interesting.
Too. I caught that too, Jen. And I was like, father, that's a weird way to start that off. Like, or do you want to have a kid with her first and then maybe get married, which is fine. But I'm wondering that might be what's in his past, Tiffany.
That's interesting. It could be the case. It was a weird triple. It was. To end on caregiver, maybe like lover. I don't know. It's a weird caregiver.
Let's stick with lover before thinking about me being, God forbid, unable to.
Am I incapacitated? Like, what happened to me? Like, what did you do to me, actually? But so let's get to. So she had some other dates. Let's talk about Mr. Chapman. I actually like this conversation with Mr. Chapman because it felt like we learned more about him as a person and how he does have a van, but he enjoys traveling from place to place. And he said that he was just hoping to meet someone to stay in one place. And I thought that was kind of a sweet line.
It is.
I thought it was sweet. I'd love to see him get some kind of spin-off reality show, travels with Chapman or something.
Oh, I love that.
Well, I mean, what I got
on Discovery, that would be really cool, actually.
Right?
That's a good idea.
I mean, we have to work.
You need to produce it. We're producing it right now, actually. Yeah.
I did feel like it was a more sincere exchange between the two of them. He didn't seem to be all bravado and mysterious where he wasn't giving anything. I do think, though, that he is some kind of town-to-town traveling model. Because he's a model, but he travels a lot. So I'm like, does he just go into local towns and like, hey, do you need someone for your billboard? Like, I'm wondering how that works.
I think because you're a model, you can probably get flown into whatever location you want. So maybe he's just living his life on the road because he can, and he just goes to whatever the job is.
Unfortunately for Mr. Chapman, I don't think Nicole Remy is all about marrying someone who lives out of his van. She even said in her one-on-one close-up, she's like, so Mr. Chapman lives in a van, and and I was like, oh, I don't know if that to her seems like he's someone to be with long term because he doesn't maybe have a long-term plan.
That's fair.
So
that's actually
I'm
fair.
thinking that maybe while she.
But Mr. Hunter is like a sailor, so what's the difference? Mr. Hunter,
I don't think that's his 9 to 5.
I'm just simply saying he doesn't have a home either.
He has a home
on a boat.
No, he did that when he was a kid.
He's a home now? I don't remember.
He has a home now.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of homeless suitors on this show, but let's move on to Mr. Mumbray.
Yeah,
he had a nice one. I like Mr. Mumbray because he admitted, I don't know if this is the first time, but he admitted that this would be his first real long-term relationship.
Yeah.
And what I liked about that is that she was kind of like put off by that, I think, rightly so.
Yeah, I think so too.
But he admitted it was because he hadn't been, I think he said I haven't been loving myself. He hadn't been loving himself. And now he's done the work. And I thought, well, that's really sweet. That's really nice.
And I wonder if
was
that
nice.
ties into his past. Jana, in a past episode, Mr. Mumbre admitted that he was overweight as a child and that he never
Oh.
got picked for things because he was picked to play on the cricket team in the last episode. He was like
Yeah.
one of the first or something. And I think it was because he's from Kent, England. So they figured, oh, he'll know how to play cricket. Yeah. So I was wondering if maybe that self-love issues that he's had plays into maybe some insecurities about his physical appearance. So I was like, boy, he would be a great romance protagonist to to write be featured in a romance novel. So far, Jana, the suitors you've met, which ones would you say would inspire you to model a romance protagonist after him?
Well, I know you're not going to like this, but Dr. Tim, just because
okay,
I mean,
good. I thought you were going to say Mr. Judd. I was like, no,
because he's so arrogant, because I mean, I can just see his character arc from the standpoint that he's
a duke. He could be a duke. Easily.
And she hates him, and something happens to him and he drops, and she has to pick him back up to to get him to over the finish line, and so he loses some of that arrogance and says, I can only do my best when I'm with you, or something like that. Yeah. I mean, he would be the easiest one to craft, and I think Mr. Mumbre would be a wonderful one too.
Yeah, he's so sweet.
And you know who else?
Who?
Mr. Kim.
Captain Kim. Yes, because of his heartbreak story.
Yes.
Oh my God, if you didn't, I teared up with that. I really did. I did, because I mean, I was like, oh, I felt that for him. I really did,
Yeah, and he was fighting back. Was it then that he was fighting back tears when he was talking to Mr. Cones about his past?
Yes.
He got really choked up. I mean, I'm wondering how long ago that was. It couldn't have been that long because it seems very raw for him.
What's interesting about that is because some of the other guys said, yeah, you've been off this week. Because and he was saying he was triggered, I guess, at the fair when she was kissing those other guys.
Yeah.
And it was just really interesting to hear that struck. Like, he was really shook by what happened at the fair. Like, that really did a toll on him. And that was actually very interesting to see. We don't actually see that too often from guys, to see that, this hurt me emotionally, and it made me kind of like, it dug up the past. So it's kind of interesting to see that point of view, because we haven't really seen that deep level emotional side of Captain Kim. And I feel like it really came out this week.
We're getting to the point where a lot of these suitors are losing that facade, and we're starting to really get deeper. And I think that Captain Kim has reached that point where now I'm going to start really being myself. I even wrote the note that he laid himself bare, which was something that he hadn't been doing. So even if he doesn't end up with Miss Remy, I hope this is part of his healing journey, and can then move on to a relationship. I hope this is preparing a lot of the suitors for relationships with someone else if they don't get picked, because there's some they all have some inner conflicts that they're dealing with.
I think
really interesting.
And I think at that farewell ball, when he was so relieved at the end, and it was like another layer came off of him, and you really saw the happiness inside of him that I think he's scared to let out. I think he's so vulnerable and is trying to be so protective of himself.
Absolutely. And I guess we've teased the farewell ball enough. We might as well dig right in. So as of the beginning of the ball, we have 11 suitors, and we get rid of 2. So let's talk about who was on the dance card. There was Mr. Shanklin.
Yep.
Oh, we didn't talk about Mr. Shanklin's his concert.
Do you want to talk about it quickly?
Yeah, well, let's talk about Mr. Shanklin's concert real quickly before we go into the ball. So Jana, you look like you ready to comment on that. So tell us, what did you think of Mr. Shanklin's? I wrote this for you.
Have you, everybody's watched I Love Lucy or Lucille Ball or whatever. And those moments when it's so humiliating what she's doing on the screen that you want to hide, I mean, you're laughing, but you're trying to hide because it's just so over the top.
Yes.
He was over the top, I think. Oh, and I've been composing this for you all week,
Yeah, and
that's such a good description. I felt so bad for him. I felt, because the expression on her face,
she was just like,
and I was like, oh my God, what is she gonna say? And she handled that so well, of like, that was really sweet. Let's just hug. She handled it so well, because I was the same way. I'm like, oh, this is really painful to watch.
Yeah,
And
it was. Got to give him credit. The man has got confidence, and it's not that he has a bad voice. I needs to not always do that. Like, what is that like when you're trying to go up and down?
is that a
the
run?
range
Is that a
of-
run? I think.
Is that a run? Yeah. And it's
I
like,
think
no,
so.
why don't you just sing, sentences? I don't why don't you sing your lyrics? It just seemed like he does a lot of flourish. And then he was saying, and he does so much of that run, flourishing run, that you can't really understand what he's saying. But I think it was something like about you. I don't know. I recorded it. I'll have to insert it at this point. But he's like, oh, it's all for you or something. I wrote this for you. I think the song was called I Wrote This For You. I was like, I wrote this for you.
So original.
Cause they ain't talking about much. Cause if you choose me, I'll show you so much more. So tell them, hold up. I've been writing every night since I met you. Wow. I enjoy singing to you, so as long as you keep me around, I'd love to just sing to you whenever I get the chance.
I think we should. I think we should. Let's take it slow.
I like
Is that
that.
okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Can I give you a hug?
Of course.
Kiss on the cheek.
Absolutely.
So Mr. Shanklin's singing did not convince Miss Remy to keep him out of the ball, out of the dance. She didn't send him up to the balcony with the other guys, the other hopefuls. She's like, we got to dance because I don't know how I feel about you. So Shanklin, Castronovo, Boccicchio, and Captain Kim were asked. Captain Kim, third time.
I know,
time
good for
being
him.
asked to possibly
Poor
face
guy.
elimination.
Who should we discuss first? Should we start? Let's start with Mr. Shanklin. We're already talking about him.
Let's go dig into Shanklin because that was a bit dramatic. It's a bit dramatic.
That was it was not shocking to me that she picked him to go because there was just no chemistry, but I couldn't tell if he was being genuine when he said that he was falling for her or not. I just couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So that was kind of odd to me, but it was the right pick to send him home, in my opinion.
It was. And I wrote down exactly what she said. So she told me, what Mr. Shanklin said to Miss Remy, because she's like, yeah, I'm not really sure I'm feeling it. He's like, if you let me go, then you're making a mistake.
Yeah.
But I'll still love you. And she's like, what? And
She's
all
like,
the
love?
guys in the balcony, they're like, what?
Did he go there? I can't believe he went there.
And then she's like, wait, are you saying you love me? You have feelings for me? And she said, and ultimately she's like, I don't think I can get there with you. I love that expression, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't think I can get there with you because I think it just says everything without being graphic.
Without being mean.
But yeah, he seemed kind of, like, hey, you're throwing me away. Like, why? But she did. She told him farewell.
And the best part, when he was walking away, Mrs. Remy.
She delivered the second best line. Go ahead, Tiffany. You tell. Oh, did you write it down?
She said to her husband, I told you there was too much singing. Just like,
I love the Remy family. I want to have dinner with them. They are awesome.
Because they are high society. That is a high society thing to say. Of like, she said it so politely.
Yeah.
I told you there was just too much singing. It's like, oh my God.
And that was awesome.
That was so funny.
So he left. Go ahead.
And we also had a premonition that was going to happen because Mr. Edwards said that's never, ever worked to say, to that.
He did say that. Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God.
And it's true.
My God.
It's true.
Yeah. And Mr. Shanklin was so like, well, if she doesn't appreciate it, I'll find somebody that does appreciate my singing. I was glad to see him go too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, he relied too heavily on his voice, his singing voice.
Yeah, it was too much. Yeah. But should we go into Captain Kim?
Let's go into Captain Kim.
Captain Kim.
I know.
He won me over. It wasn't until he's been warming up throughout the series because Jen, I think you missed throughout the series. He was very more like competitive. The very first one, over time he's warmed up. But this elimination, when he stopped the dance and said, I've got to be real with you. And he just laid it out on the table.
Yeah.
And he basically explained like, I have feelings for you. This opened up some wounds. I want to know where you stand. And it was just really emotional. And he was being I think, Liz, what did you say? The phrase that he laid it bare on the table or
Yeah,
something
he
like
laid
that?
himself bare. If I'm using the correct
Yeah,
example.
no, that's
But
true.
it sounds like he got naked and just laid there. But no,
He made himself vulnerable because she could have
Yes.
just cut him off right then. you know?
yeah. Oh yeah.
And
No.
he had some good lines. He said, oh, it was so sweet. He said, "You help me feel again." And I was like, that is so
Oh.
sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh,
There's some great lines to insert into a romance novel.
I know.
So
Yes.
for sure. Which also made me wonder, do they have romance writers on staff who are writing some of these lines?
No, that felt genuine. Some of the other lines, yes, made up.
Okay.
That felt genuine because of his trauma in the past.
Okay.
That felt genuine. He's just like, you help me feel again. And he's just like, I'm open to,
Yeah.
I think he said feeling hurt or getting hurt or something or other. So it was just nice to hear that perspective, to hear into his
agree.
background and what was going on there. And she told him to him straight, which was basically, this is the most open I've seen you the entire time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep you for that. And I appreciated that.
I'm going to keep you. You can go
I'm
up to the balcony.
What?
I'm going to
Take your
keep you.
place. Take your place in the stands.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was emotional. Then we have, who do we have left here? Castronovo and Boccicchio.
Yeah.
And
Where do you want to go first?
first of all, I want to say, I thought she was going to keep Castronovo and get rid of Boccicchio.
Yes.
I did too.
Same.
I did
Same.
too. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Um,
And she didn't,
yeah.
she defied her parents, which I guess did happen. Well, how often did you defy your parents though, Janna, in the Regency era? Like if you knew your parents liked Mr. Castronovo, would you have gotten rid of Mr. Castronovo? Like, would you?
Well, I mean, if we look at romance novels, absolutely. In real life,
yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. So many of those marriages in the upper echelons would, all be arranged and things. So they wouldn't. But
Right.
I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, I mean, Castronovo took it really well. He even offered to make the family pizza.
Yes.
I know.
Those parents were distraught. They were like,
crying.
They had
we've got to
tears
get
in their
together.
eyes.
Like, you're still our number one. And they were so distraught by this man leaving. He gave a very nice farewell goodbye to everyone, but they were distraught. They got up, they were hugging him. And and they're just like,
Yeah. It was really
Yeah,
emotional.
it's-
And
it's crazy. It's
it was
crazy.
interesting because Mr. Castronovo kept saying, if you just stick with me, like you'll start to feel the butterflies. But see, butterflies are the things that don't happen over time. Either you have butterflies or you don't.
Yep, exactly.
I don't think, but I mean, you can maybe grow to love someone more for their personality, but I think that if you don't have butterflies at first, it's rare it's gonna just start fluttering,
Yeah.
So I thought that, and then when he broke down, he started to cry in his
Yeah.
one-on-one
Yeah.
after he left Mr. Castronovo. And I was so touched by how emotional he was. And but he got a hold of himself and he's like, I'm gonna move on. And God bless Mr. Castronovo. God bless you and your pizzeria that they kept mentioning every time they could. There was like,
I know.
oh, he's the pizzeria owner. He has a pizzeria.
It's good for business.
And I kept on thinking, well, she's a software engineer and he owns his pizzeria. I mean, can she really see her life? And where's he from? New Jersey?
Yes.
Is he
They're
from
on
New Jersey?
opposite coast. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that had any part of it or not. I don't know.
Yeah, but that would make for an interesting romance novel. It's
Yes.
like they have to, combine their world. She's a fish out of water going to New Jersey to work, a tech job.
You see her like rolling dough. That would be a scene. She's like, and then it'd be like a sexy scene because he'd teach her how to roll the dough,
Yeah.
Let me show you how to roll it.
Right.
But then let's go back to Mr. Boccicchio because
Yes.
I was like the people in the balcony. I was like, he's going home tonight. It was too intense for her. But that wasn't the case. The case was she wanted to hear his feelings again, which I felt like we already know. But
yeah, I don't know why he had to repeat them. And he went in and he stole a kiss and she was all about it. He kissed her.
I
all
loved
the guys
about that
I like,
kiss.
I can't believe you.
Yes, all those reactions. Even Mr. Hunter was like, it's a farewell ball for God's sake.
No,
and that
It
was
was hilarious.
And I wanted to see more of Mr. Hunter. They covered everybody except for Mr. Hunter in this one.
He was in previous episodes.
He
but you're
was
right.
the star of, what was it, episode 2? I think
Okay.
they had a big date, but you're right. They didn't pay attention to him. Mr. Holland, They didn't do anything with him this time because his date was
It was
last
episode
time.
3.
So I guess they try to like rotate. But yeah,
Okay,
Mr. Hunter
okay.
had his day.
He had his
Okay.
day. But what I thought was funny about
yeah.
Mr. Bokikio after the kiss is that they cut to Mr. Remy and he was like,
Yes!
he's not
Just look
Giuseppe.
at him.
Not Giuseppe. I was like, relax, Dad. He was like so disappointed by that kiss of like, and then he said something like, but saying something on the dance floor isn't the same as saying it in real life. I was like, you've got to let this go, sir.
Yes.
She clearly likes him. I know he's not Giuseppe, but you got to let it go.
Yeah.
He is just not for Mr. Bokikio. It was fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And they kept on coming back. What's it going to be like 15, 20 years down the road when they don't have any hair and they've got a paunch and all this other kind of stuff? And I was like, holy moly. Okay.
Yeah.
They did not like him. They I think it's because of Giuseppe, because they were so
they really
put off that Giuseppe was being left out, and they loved him clearly, that they were not for Mr. Bokikio, but he is letting his intentions be known every episode. Every episode.
Oh yeah. Casanova is gone. Shanklin is gone. We're back down to 9 suitors going into episode 5, which is next week. Does anyone have any predictions? Who do you think is going to get a big date next episode? Who do you think is going to be leaving the next episode? I'll begin with you, Tiffany, giving Janna a little time to think on that. Go ahead, Tiffany.
I don't have any. Every single week I say like Captain Kim, and he never gets a date. So I'm not going to say it again. I'm not going to say it again. I don't know who's going to get a date. I hope Mr. Judge, I don't know what his name is, the wrestler, I want him to go because I just don't believe him. Maybe because I don't know him yet. But I want to get some more one-on-one dates a little bit longer. I would like to see Captain Kim for a date, and I would like to see Mr. Chapman for a date as well.
Yes. I think next week is going to be Mr. Chapman's moment in the sun. I think he's going to get a date. I have a feeling that Mr. Mumbre is going to be sent away. I have a feeling because I think it really threw her to know he doesn't have any experience in relationships. And I think that maybe she's at the point where she wants someone who's at her level, relationship ready, So I think Mr. Mumbre might depart next week. Chapman will get a date. What do you think, Janna? What are your thoughts?
I think Mr. Judge will probably leave. He may be a one and done, because there really wasn't that much that happened between them. And he is too good looking to be from a small town and have all these. Well, you know what I'm saying?
See, Janna?
Yeah, it didn't sound realistic.
It doesn't add up and stuff. I really like Captain Kim. I really do. And particularly from the standpoint that she has had the same experience that he did, because that's why she's here, right? Because her previous relationship, she felt more than what, her partner did. Yeah. So that's why she's here. And that just matches with Kim. So they both can come in with, wounded hearts that become whole,
Oh, that's sweet.
Thank you, Janna, for joining us. You were a wealth of knowledge and gave fantastic insights. You sold me on a Captain Kim, Miss Remy romance. But it is time to say adieu.
Farewell.
Well, your carriage awaits.
Well, thank you both so very, very much for having me. And in the immortal words of Mr. Giuseppe Castronova, I just want to say thank you. I'll always love you.
Aww.
You both are the most beautiful girls in the world.
Oh,
thank you.
That's the best send off. That's very sweet.